I'm going to show you how to go in and make a beret on the Excellent. Now I am using the 160, but if you're wanting to make a smaller beret, then you can use the 120, but I'm wanting to make an adult hat, and I need to be able to increase 3 times. So if you're doing the 120, decide if you can increase 3 times from 88. I didn't think you could, but if you can do this method. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a hemmed brim. You can do a regular one, but I'll tell you how to do that. If you want to do a regular brim area, we're going to start at the base of the hat, work our way out, and then work our way back in. So we're going to do some increasing first thing practically. Alright, so what do you want to do? And I'm working with a scarfy yarn, and yes, I know that is a bulky, and you can kind of work a 3/8 inch gauge with a bulky, okay? You push it to the max, but it works. Alright, so what I want to do is I want to take and set up 22 pegs off of each prong, okay? And then I want to cast on circularly, because there's no seaming, there's no weirdness to this. It's just increasing, decreasing, binding off kind of thing. Alright, but we will have a brim to do, and we're going to keep it really simple. We're going to do a where you bring your cast on loops back with a hemmed edge, and that way there is absolutely no purling involved. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and set your loom up, get your cast on for 88 pegs, and then I will show you how to get started on the brim, and then we'll move on to the next step after that. Okay, we're done with our cast on. Now we want to get started with our brim. Okay, and this is going to be some options for you. If you want it to kind of fit any size, I would suggest doing a rib stitch and doing it for approximately 10 rows. Okay, so with the 88, you can do a set of 4, so it can be knit 2, purl 2, and you want to do that for 10 rows, okay? If you want a little bit more brim, do 15 rows. So my suggestion is 10 rows, okay? But because I'm going to do a hemmed brim, I'm going to be doing 20 rows of stockinette stitch, okay? So what you want to do is, now that you've cast it on, you're going to be working in the round. You want to do 20 rows of knit, okay, just knitting all the way around, okay. So what I'm going to tell you to do is pause the video and knit your 20 rows, and then we will come back and I will show you how to get that hemmed brim look, and then we'll be starting on how to do the bottom part of the beret. But this is where there's no sewing to do this kind of shaping on a beret. This is going to make it so different than what you might be used to making a beret on the Loom. Okay, pause the video, get your 20 rows of knit done, and then we will come back and we'll get our hemmed brim set up. And again, if you don't want a hemmed brim and you want it to fit more sizing than just adult, do a rib stitch of 2 by 2, knit 2, purl 2 for 10 rows, okay? Because you're not going to do a fold up. But because we're going to do a fold up for this, you want to do 20, okay? So pause the video, get your 20 rows done, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we have done our 20 rows. Alright, and now we're ready to do our hemmed brim. Okay, and so what we want to do is we want to find our starting tail right here, and this yarn may be a little bit more difficult than you might normally would on finding your starting cast on loops. Okay, but you can stick your finger behind it and you can see your skin showing through. Okay, you're going to place that first stitch onto the peg, and you go in and you find your next stitch and place it onto the peg, and you want to do this all the way around. It's no different than if you are doing a hemmed brim on a regular round loom. You're just doing it on the X loom, okay? It's going to be a little tighter in areas and a little looser in areas when going around the corners. But as I said, it's still the same, it's no different. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and add your stitches back to the loom, and then I'll show you how to go to the next step. Okay, so pause the video, get all your stitches back on, your cast on stitches back onto the loom, and then we will go from there. Now that all your stitches are folded back, it's time to go in and knit both stitches over. So you go around and knit both stitches over all the way around, and this concludes your hemmed brim. Okay. Alright, so pause the video, get your row done, knit both pegs over, and then we will go from there, and I will show you how to start doing the bottom half of the brim. Okay, we finished our hemmed brim, and now we're ready to start working on the hat. And what you want to start off doing is knitting 3 rows. We're going to be doing a 4-row set. And what you do is you're going to be knitting 3 rows, and then you're going to be doing a 4 wedge increase on a row. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to start off knitting for 3 rows. So go ahead and pause the video, knit your 3 rows, and then we'll come back and I will show you the 4 wedge increase row, and then you're going to repeat that a total of 3 times, and then we will be starting on our wedge decrease. Okay, we are to a 4 wedge increase, our last row of a 4-row set. So go ahead and knit your way over to your first wedge, and I will show you how to do a wedge increase. Okay, so we have knitted our way over to our wedge, and you want to pick your previous stitch up, pull it back, make sure your working yarn is in the middle of the loom the whole time, so that you can place the working yarn over the peg and then place the stitch that you just pulled back. Then what you want to do is you want to pick up that stitch you just made, and you want to move it over to the previous peg and then knit your wedge pegs. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to pick up a previous stitch on the next peg, place the working yarn in front of that peg, and then replace the stitch. Okay, then you want to place that stitch you just created onto the previous peg and then knit that peg. Then you want to loosen your washer and pull the wedge to the next set of pegs. Then take those stitches you just created and put them onto those empty pegs. Alright? And what you'll want to do is you'll want to go in and tighten those stitches all the way around. Alright? And then knit your way over to the next wedge and do the same thing. And you're going to do this increase method on all 4 wedges. So go ahead and complete your 4 wedge increase row. I'll show you how to do one more wedge, and then leave it to you to complete the rest of the bottom half of your beret. Alright, so here at the other wedge, I like to push all my stitches down. Again, pull, have your working yarn in the middle of the loom, pull your previous stitch back, place the working yarn in front of the peg, and then place the stitch back where you had it. Place the stitch you just created, pick it up, you'll know it is because it moves, onto the previous peg. Then what you'll want to do is knit the wedge pegs, then go to the previous, keeping your working yarn in the center of the loom, and then you will pull your previous stitch back, place the working yarn in front of the peg, and then put the stitch you just pulled back. Move that stitch over to the previous peg that you just created, and you'll know because it moves, and then knit that peg. Loosen your washer, move your wedge down 1, and move those stitches you just created to those empty pegs, and go in and snug up those stitches, and then go in and knit your way around and do an increase on this wedge and an increase on this wedge, and that completes your 4-row set. You're going to do this a total of 3 times, so you'll do it 2 more times after this. Okay, and no matter if you're working the 80 peg set, you're going to do a total of 3 increases. You'll go to a max of 104, and I believe it's 112 on this one, I think. And so you're gonna increase total 3 times. So you're gonna do 3 total sets. When we come back, then we'll have the bottom half of the beret done, and we'll be ready to work the top half. Okay, so pause the video, get your 4-row sets done. You'll do a total of 3, and then we will come back. Okay, I've finished my complete increasing, and now I'm ready to do decreasing. But what I want to do now is I want to do 6 rows of knit. Okay, so you should have done your last increase. Now you want to do 6 rows of knit. Okay, so all you want to do is just knit your way around for 6 rounds. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and get your 6 rounds done, and then we'll come back and we'll start our next 4-row set. Okay, we are ready to start our next 4-row set. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to do a 4 wedge decrease, and then we want to do 3 rows of knit. Okay, so we're going to loosen our washer, move the wedge down on all 4. Okay, then move your straggling stitches into the wedge pegs. Okay, what I like to do is pull down on them. Kind of makes those stitches not move. Okay, now what you want to do is just knit the row after you've done your wedge decreases. Okay, and then when you get to those wedge pegs, you want to knit both loops over. Yeah, go in and knit both loops over on them wedge pegs. So go ahead and pause the video, knit your way around, and this is row 1 of the next 4-row set. Okay, so pause the video, complete your row, and then we will go on to work the next 3 rows. Okay, now that we've done our decrease, we're going to do 3 rows of knit. Okay, so now what you want to do is, to finish your 4-row set, you want to go in and you want to knit for 3 rows. Okay, and you'll repeat this process. Okay, so you want to knit around for 3 rounds, then you're going to decrease around, and you're going to continue this 4-row process. So decrease a row, knit 3 rows, decrease a row, knit 3 rows. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to repeat that 4-row set for half of the decreases that you're going to do. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to count out your section that's supposed to have decreasings on it and divide that in half. So depending on whatever loom you're using and whatever size you're doing, you're going to divide your decreases in half, okay? And you're going to work from there. Now, after you divide the decreases in half and you do your 4-row sets down to that number, I apologize for my daughter trying to get in filming whenever I can. A house of 6 people, it gets difficult. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to decrease down by half, okay? And I've done so already, and I'm ready to do the last half of my decreasing. And what I want to do is I want to do a 2-row set. And what that is I'm going to do a row of knit and a row of 4 wedge decrease, okay, all the way down to 24 pegs. All right, so what that means is I'm going to go around and I'm going to do a row of knit, okay, okay, at this point what you're wanting to do is you want to do a 4 wedge decrease now that you've finished a single row. And I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. It's no different. You're just changing up the amount of rows you do in between your 4 wedge decrease, okay? So push all your wedges in by 1, decrease. You can take all of them and push them in, and then you move those extra stitches over. So it's the same thing that what we've been doing. We're just doing it slightly different in that we, instead of being 3 rows in between, we're only going to do a single row in between our decrease rows, okay? And what that's going to do is going to bring in to where it's a really tight circle in the middle, because you're going to need to shape your beret. You're going to need to put either it around a plate after you've wet it to block it, or anything that's in that round level, okay? At this point, you want to knit the row, and when you get to those decrease pegs, of course, knit both loops over, all right? So you're going to repeat this 2-set decrease, all right? And you're going to, and after you do your last decrease, you're just going to do 1 more row of stockinette, and you should have that much. You should be ready for the drawstring bind off, okay? And then you're about done, okay? So go ahead and pause the video and do your 2-row sets until down to 24 pegs. And if you already know the drawstring bind off, go ahead and do it. And if not, I'll show you how to do that, okay? So go ahead and pause the video and get this much done, and then we'll finish it up. We're very close to the end. Okay, I have decreased down to 24 pegs, okay? And now it's time to do my drawstring bind off. And what I want to do, and I've already cut me a long tail, is I want to go in and I want to skip my starting peg, okay? So skip my starting peg, toss that bottom lip over, and pull my tail through on the next peg. So what you want to do is you want to take off every other stitch. You just toss the loop over and pull the tail through. And you want to do this all the way around. Okay, we've made it all the way around. We want to skip that starting peg again and go to the next one. And then now we want to take off all the rest of the stitches. Okay. And your last one. Okay, now here's how this is done. You find your last pulled stitch, and then you go and you find the strand above it, which is this one here. Okay, and you want to pull that one, and then you want to pull the last one. Okay, and then you can stretch it. And what you'll want to do to start shaping it is you'll want to block it, and you go and you close it off, and you probably want to put it around a plate or something to block it, and that way it starts to add the shape that you want. Okay, but you want to take the end in here and shut it off. And then you'll want to take a plate and start trying to get it shaped. Okay, but that is how you make a beret on the X Loom. Okay.